Hey crew, let's go ahead and finish up Ribsy today. Well, it's been a couple days since I've read from here, but we need to finish this. So Ribsy, if you remember, his was almost home, then he ran off again, and he is now trying to get down off a fire escape, right? I mean, he was trying to climb down, and because he'd been in that kid's apartment, he jumped down, and now he is trying to figure out how to get down, and there's some guys down the street who have noticed him, so let's see where we're at. And there was somebody way down on the next street. Remember, Ribsy was looking for anybody he might knew if he got out the window. And there was somebody way down below on the next street. Ribsy! It was Henry Huggins' voice, coming from the new station wagon, which was moving along with the rest of the traffic. Ribsy! Henry had his head out of the window and was pointing up the fire escape. At the sound of the voice he loved, Ribsy went wild. He barked until he was hoarse. In his excitement, his hind feet slipped through the fire escape. Terrified lest he fall through, he scrambled frantically to regain his footing on the metal bars. When his feet were planted safely once more, there was no sign of Henry anywhere. This terrified Ribsy even more. Henry had gone off and left him again. He barked so hoarsely and so wildly that even the body and fender men heard him. One of them came to the back door of the shop and looked up at the dog on the fire escape. "Well, I'll be doggoned," he said, pushing his greasy cap back on his head. "How did you get up there?" Ribsy whimpered anxiously. He felt better just having someone speak to him. "Hey, Bert," the body and fender man called to someone in the shop. "There's a dog on the fire escape." "No kidding?" Bert appeared and looked up at Ribsy. "Well, what do you know? How do you suppose he got up there?" Ribsy tried to tell the men that he had to get down, that he had to run down the street and find Henry Huggins before he got so far away he could never find him again. "What do you think we should do?" asked the body and fender man. Bert shrugged. Probably some kid put him there. Most likely it was Larry. He'll probably get him down." "Yeah, I guess you're right." The two men knew Larry, who often came in his shop to admire the wrecked cars. Suddenly, Ribsy saw Henry Huggins appear from around the side of the building. "Ribsy!" the boy shouted. "I found you!" This time, Ribsy barked for joy at the sight of the boy down below. "Funny place to lose a dog," remarked the body and fender man. "I didn't lose him there," explained Henry, his eyes on his dog. "I lost him a month ago at the shopping center." "Then what's he doing up there?" the man asked. "Search me," said Henry. All that really mattered was that he had found his dog at last. "All I know is I was talking to him on the telephone and he started running and nobody saw him after that." The two men looked at one another, shook their heads, and turned to go back to the shop. One of them said something that sounded like, "Poor kid, too much TV." The other said, "Yeah, my boy watches those talking animal programs too, but he's too smart to believe them." So they thought Henry actually talked to Ribsy and Ribsy was on the phone, but we know better. He was talking to somebody else and he could hear Ribsy on the other side of the phone. Next, Ribsy saw Henry's mother and father come around the corner of the apartment house. "I finally found a parking space," remarked Mr. Huggins, and he looked up at Ribsy. "Well, hello there, fella." Ribsy made eager, anxious noises. Surely his family would not go off and leave him here. "See, Dad?" said Henry. "I told you if we just drove around in this neighborhood, we were sure to find him. I told you he couldn't be too far from that Joe's house." "You were right, Henry," said his mother. "And now we don't have to argue with that boy Joe about who owns him. How on earth do you suppose he got up there?" Ribsy whimpered again to remind Henry he would like to get off this thing. "What worries me is how we are going to get him down," said Henry. By this time, Larry Biggerstaff arrived. He had been sitting on the front steps worrying about how he was going to get rid of the dog when he had noticed three people hurry down the side of his apartment building and had overheard the words "dog" and "fire escape." "Well, that's easy," said Mr. Huggins. "That's easy," Mr. Huggins was saying. "I'll just go ring the bell and tell the manager we want our dog back." "Please don't do that," begged Larry, bursting into the conversation. "The dog isn't supposed to be there, and I'll catch it if the manager finds out about him. She might even evict me and my mother like she always says she's going to do." Ribsy barked to remind the people below that he was still up here. "Shh!" hissed Larry. "I don't get it," said Henry. "What's he doing up there?" "Well, I was playing on the front with this old tennis ball I have." From the way Larry spoke of the tennis ball, it was easy to tell he did not think much of it. This dog came along and wanted to chase it. And, well, I got to thinking he might be hungry, and so I started to take him inside, and the manager started chasing me, and I shoved him on the fire escape to hide him. And, well, I've been sitting out on the front steps trying to figure out how I was going to get rid of him without the manager seeing me. I see, said Mr. Huggins. Well, just get him down, said Henry. Fast. Now, Henry, said his mother. I didn't put him out on the 3rd floor, said Larry, as if this helped the situation. I put him out on the 2nd, and he climbed up to the 3rd. Ribsy was so eager to get down, he put a paw on the ladder-like steps. He could not do it. They were too steep, and he was afraid. Well, we seem to have a problem, said Mr. Huggins, looking up at the dog on the fire escape. Well, maybe you could boost me up to that little ladder that sticks up from the bottom part, and then I could climb up and carry him down, offered Larry, who was glad to have someone had arrived to help him with this problem. Oh no, said Mrs. Huggins hastily. We couldn't let you climb down those steep steps with a dog. You might slip. Ribsy could not be patient any longer. He put his paw on the top step again. Well, maybe we could call the fire department and they could bring a net and he could jump, suggested Henry. Don't do that. Please don't do that, Larry objected strenuously. The manager really gets excited when she sees a fire engine in front of the building. Ribsy was beginning to think the people below had forgotten all about him. He put a second paw on the steps. He wanted so much to get down. He wanted to feel Henry petting him again and to lick his face. Even though he was afraid, he was going to try. This is ridiculous, said Mr. Huggins. I'll just go in the back door and up the back stairs and bring him through the window. And have someone mistake you for a burglar? Asked Mrs. Huggins. Oh, no. You go, Henry said to Larry. You got him up there. Larry looked frightened. The manager might catch me. Then I'll go, said Henry. Ribsy reached for the second step and at the same time brought his hind foot down to the top step. No, you won't, said Henry's mother. You can't go roaming around in a strange building. We can't just leave him, Henry began. Ribsy had started down the steep steps. It was too late to turn back, even if he wanted to, and he did not want to. He found himself coming down the steps faster than he expected. The metal was slippery to his paws. Halfway down, he slipped and tumbled, yelping to the bottom, and there he was with his feet dangling in space again. Hey, look! Henry pointed unnecessarily. Everyone was looking at Ribsy. He got down by himself. That proves he wanted to come home with us. Ribsy picked himself up and scrambled around, trying to find places to set his feet. Did you hurt yourself, Ribsy? Henry asked. Ribsy managed to set his feet on the slats of the fire escape. Woof! He said, and wagged his tail to show that he was all right. Smart dog, Ribsy, said Henry. Now, how do we get him down from there? The two men from the body and fender shop came out once more to see what all the commotion was about. I hear that dog talks on the telephone, remarked Bert. He did once, said Mr. Huggins absentmindedly. He was wondering how they were going to get Ribsy down to the ground. The two men exchanged a glance. There's a ladder in the shop that should reach almost to the bottom of the fire escape, one of them said. I'll get it. He returned in a moment with a paint-splattered stepladder, which he set up under the fire escape. It almost reached the metal ladder that extended down the fire escape. I'll go, Dad, said Henry, eager to get his hands on his dog again. You'd better let me go, said his father, mounting the stepladder. With help so near, Ribsy barked joyfully. Shh! Hissed Larry. Mr. Huggins climbed the stepladder and then the short ladder that was part of the fire escape. He crawled through the opening in the lower level of the fire escape and picked up Ribsy. Hold still, boy, he said, as Ribsy gratefully tried to lick his face. You'll fall, worried Mrs. Huggins. You can't possibly climb down the fire escape ladder and the stepladder with a dog. Don't drop him, begged Henry. I'm afraid that's what I will have to do, said Mr. Huggins. Go ahead, said one of the body and fender men. We'll catch him. Ribsy felt himself being lifted over the railing of the fire escape, and then he experienced a terrible moment of panic as he fell through the air. Suddenly, everything was all right. 4 strong hands caught him. Ribsy wriggled out of the grasp of the body and fender men and sprang into Henry's arms, where he licked Henry's face for joy. Ribsy, said Henry. Ribsy, old boy. He put the dog down at last, and Ribsy was so happy he waggled all over. Henry sank to his knees and hugged his dog. Whew, that's a relief, said Larry. Mr. Huggins reached into his pocket and brought out his wallet. I think part of the reward money should be yours, he said to Larry. What for? Larry looked suspiciously at Henry's father as if he thought he might be joking. I didn't do nothing. You put 'em up where we could see 'em, said Mr. Huggins, and held out 3 $1 bills. If you hadn't put 'em up on the fire escape, we could have driven around all day without seeing him. Larry looked doubtfully at the bills. Sure, said Henry. You put 'em up there right in plain sight. Larry took the 3 bills. Thanks. I can buy a good ball with this. He grinned at Mr. Huggins and at Henry. Then he patted Ribsy. Ribsy was so happy he wriggled all over for Larry, too. And now, I think we better go home before Larry's manager catches us, said Mr. Huggins, as the men took down the ladder and carried it into the body and fender shop. I wonder if that dog knows how to dial the telephone, too, remarked Bert. If he does, he ought to be on TV, answered the other man. Henry, his parents, and Larry walked along the side of the apartment house with Ribsy bounding along beside them. In front of the building, they ran right into Mrs. Creech, who was sweeping the front steps. I knew you had a dog, Larry Biggerstaff, she said triumphantly. Wait till I talk to your mother about this. There must be a mistake, said Mr. Huggins politely. This is our dog. He never belonged to Larry. But, began Mrs. Creech. No, said Mr. Huggins firmly. The dog is ours and has been for several years. We just misplaced him for a while. Mrs. Creech did not know what to say, so she went back to sweeping the steps. Henry opened the door of the station wagon, which still smelled like a new car. Hop in, he said to Ribsy. Ribsy accepted the invitation. He jumped in and settled himself on the seat. This time he knew he was welcome. Henry climbed in beside him. He picked up the leather collar, which was lying on the seat, and fastened it around Ribsy's neck. Ribsy thumped his tail on the upholstery. Mrs. Huggins smiled at Ribsy and did not say a word. Ribsy could ride in the new station wagon all he wanted. So he made it home. A little bit of an adventure to get there, but he made it. So that's the story, Ribsy. Now, Beverly Cleary has a lot of books about Henry Huggins, about Beezus, about Ramona, about Ribsy. And as you guys go to 3rd grade next year, and as you go to 4th grade and 5th grade, those are books out in the library that you can find. Just look for Beverly Cleary. So just find the CLE when you get in those sections. Because the reason I have read them, and I haven't really put them on a shelf for you guys to read, is because they're more 3rd, 4th, 5th grade level books. So some fun books, good books that you can read about, kids living a few years ago. But some of their adventurous things that happened to them aren't too different from things that could happen to you today. And that's why I like to read those books. Okay? All right. We'll catch you later.